How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the September Tidal Gardens YouTube live show. Like always, we are starting off with a 10-minute countdown to make sure that stuff is performing like it should. So hopefully the audio works and all that fun stuff. Checking in on chat. I should probably pop this out. Good. Thank you. Always got to check because it seems like, we've been doing these shows for so long. One would think that it's a pretty standard experience, and it never really is. There's always some kind of technical gremlin or something, and that's why we have this intro. So the live show portion, where we're actually selling corals, will start in about 10 minutes. And I think we have almost 250 corals or so lined up. So plenty of opportunity to see some of those and to chit chat about all things reef related. Oh, thank you so much, Brandy, with the $9.99 super chat for the coffee fund. Yeah, that's meaning more and more these days. Like coffee prices have gone up just a little bit, and here at Tidal Gardens, the coffee comes from me. That's one of the perks of working here. The coffee budget is pretty extreme. Like I just got I think 4 more 2 pound bags. So that's almost like 10 pounds because it's a little bit more than two. But yeah, we buy 10 pounds of coffee every now and again. It's a good time. It's a good time. And yeah, these days it's just necessary to be extremely caffeinated here at work. So thanks again, Brandy. So also, Brandy came and visited as a part of our open house. She made the drive all the way from North Carolina, and I got coffee creamer just for her because we don't usually have coffee creamer here. And so invariably she asks for coffee creamer. So I just got that in advance. So anyway, Eco Marines, good evening. Laura, how's it going? We missed your attendance to said open house. Many of your friends made it and were wondering, where's Laura? When is Laura going to come visit? And that is a question I have as well. You should come and hang out, Laura. It's a good time. I'm sure that the next time you run into Paul and the rest of the folks from the UK and Stefan, who else came? It was just Paul and Stefan, I think. Stefan is Yorkshire Reefer. They had fun. They had a good time. C. Patterson. Hey, Than. Saw your video with Fragbox the other day. Cool facility you guys have. Thanks. It's going okay. Facility is always, it's whenever you're doing any of this stuff at scale, you can almost guarantee something is going wrong. And I'm like, fingers crossed, nothing is going wrong while a public event is happening. And for the most part, I was fortunate. Coral Head, what's up, Corey? Than has some great coffee. Um, now I'm wondering. I don't know if I gave Corey this, but did you have like the affogato with the vanilla ice cream? Because like we do every now and again we do like the vanilla ice cream with the coffee or espresso. That's always like a really good combo. And I remember making the vanilla ice cream this past weekend, but um, I don't know if Corey got any. Something to look forward to next time if you didn't. Let's see. But yes, Fragbox was here. They had fun as well. The Canadian contingent came and hung out. So it was Fragbox, it was Reef Wholesale, Pat and Trina. Pat has been here a number of times, like a handful, like 3 times maybe. But this is the first time Trina was able to make it. And I met her in the UK when we were speaking at AAC's event over there, Coral Freaks. So yeah, I'm glad that a lot of people were able to come and see this place for the first time. Elise Main, very excited to hear about the event last week. Wish it was on a Saturday. Yeah, so I don't know if I told the origin story for this event or not, but it started through Joe Waiulo at the Long Island Aquarium. And so I've met Joe before a number of times, but we hung out a lot last year in the Netherlands for Vivarium. And I'm like, Joe, at some point you really have to come and visit, which I tell a lot of professional colleagues that, 'cause especially if they haven't been here before, it's like you should come and visit, just if for no other reason than to know whether or not everything that's coming out of my mouth is nonsense or not. It's like people should see the work product aquarium or whatever, right? I always encourage that. There's a lot of people with opinions out there. There's a lot of people giving advice. It really helps to see their aquarium because no matter what they're talking about, the tank is going to do a lot more talking than that. Anyway, trying to invite Joe over. Joe asks, "Well, are there any speaking engagements in the area that I could do?" And I'm thinking, "Wow, that's a crazy ask because I never ask for speaking engagements. In fact, I actively avoid them. But no, because there just aren't. But there are like a couple of clubs in the area, and I talk to them occasionally, and so I was like, let's see if I can just like create an event out of thin air by kind of incorporating some local clubs, and we'll have Joe as a speaker. And again, this is completely self-serving, just to get Joe to come from New York to come and hang out with me. That is it. And so we were able to do that, and that's why it was on a Friday. It's because that's when their local clubs usually meet. It's like after work on a Friday. So that's how that whole thing started. And then Joe then asks, "Are there is there anybody else that we can invite to make this like a bigger shindig social event?" I'm like, "Funny you mention that. Brandy, be the fountain in chat. She and I have been thinking about doing some kind of invite thing, and we've just never acted on it. So we decided, yeah, I'll just send out like 100+ invites and see whoever shows up shows up. Turns out about I don't know, a third of that list shows up. And by the way, when I say like, oh, only like a third of my invitees showed up, uh, it's funny that there's like a speaking engagement, right, because of Joe, but literally everybody on that list could be a keynote speaker. So there was like this kind of like a massive industry gathering of sorts, just from like all these like really, really, really cool people. And then, the side benefit is the clubs themselves. They got to meet a lot of these industry folks. And then on top of that, somebody put the bug in my head that, you know what, you should just open this up to the public because why not? What could go wrong? And I'm thinking, well, don't have a great excuse not to open it up to the public. It it oddly solves another problem that I would have had, um, which is people that didn't get invited. If you open it up to the public, nobody can complain. It's literally open to the public, even if you didn't get a personal invite from me. So, whole thing went off without a snag. I mean, somebody accidentally put plastic tongs by a burner, and apparently my place almost burnt down. So that was a thing, but luckily it did not burn down. uh, so there was that. The corals and everything like that, survived. That's also nice. There's no industrial sabotage that I know of. Always a perk. Yeah, and we had the whole thing catered like pretty much all weekend. That was kind of nice. It's a good time. Good times were had. Good times were had. And good. Coral Head did, in fact, have it in the middle of the night. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, it was a crazy amount of entertaining because I was basically committed to entertaining from the moment the first guests arrived from out of town all the way through to when the last person left. So that would mean from Friday evening of last week all the way till Sunday afternoon. Pretty much constant. And to some degree it's always herding cats. It's like, where's so and so? Does so and so need a ride to the such and such, that sort of thing. Where does like one group of people want to go and visit, because like a number of folks went to visit eye catching corals, which is about an hour from here. And I'm thinking, okay, if people are coming out of town to come and visit Tidal Gardens, while they are in town, they should definitely make a trip over to see eye catching coral, because that's a phenomenal facility as well. And eye catching, like the two owners, were at this social event on Friday, and on Saturday, a bunch of people, they went over to there. That was good. One second, I've got to text somebody. In the My mother just texted me saying she locked herself out of this building. So I have to text her back. That's not one that I can ignore. What was I saying? Yes, stable transition. So Diacanthus Reef, we have upgraded our internet here, and so we're finally like the last people in the known universe to have gigabit and Ethernet here. So now I am like super confident in my ability to make that switch over without everything just like falling apart. So fingers crossed, anyways, for the future. Okay. MS. Okay, let's talk corals. Let's talk corals rather than ice cream and my parents locking themselves out of this building. My Pectinia died last week. It was fine for 2 years and all of a sudden shrunk and gone. Could you tell me if there's specific diseases for Pectinia? There's really kind of not. So if there is something going wrong with Pectinia, there's a couple of things that I would look for first. One is there anything actively biting at it? So usually when I get this phone call, I'm like, do you by any chance have any dwarf angels? Oftentimes the answer is yes, but I've never seen it bite anything. It's not the problem. If you have a dwarf angel, it is 100% the problem. So let's start there. After that, what often can mess with things like Pectinia would be something chemical, and usually not um, pollution related. Unless your nitrates are 100, which they are not. You said they're 10 parts per million. Now I'm worried about some kind of like heavy metal poisoning. And it happens more than I think people think, because there's a lot of hobby grade devices that people put in their tanks. We're in the hobby, we put devices into the tanks. A lot of times, like the magnets and stuff like that get cracked through the plastic and start to pollute the water. So we are always hyper concerned about that, because here we have so many different things, and not everything here isn't a biz. Okay, so there you're always at the risk of something like a random feeding magnet or a lower cost power head in some nook and cranny. That's the problem. Or just even like a magnetic probe holder. These things fail all the time. So double check all of that nonsense. A lot of that stuff doesn't even show up on ICP necessarily. So if and when in doubt, I always tend to like to do water changes and back that up with chemical filtration if you know nothing about what's going on. But yeah, first things first, I start to distrust fish. And I pick on the dwarf angel thing a lot just because there's so many people that say dwarf angels are fine, they're fine in my tank, blah blah blah. And if you just like spend another 20-30 minutes just watching that fish, you can just start to see it just eat coral like immediately. It's not even like that subtle about it. But I'll go one step further. A lot of tangs and fox faces will also make a happy meal out of Pectinia. One of our show tanks here is the Peninsula show tank, and there's a big Flamingi tang in there, and it absolutely would eats a lot of these like large polyp stonies. So there you go. It eats chalices, it eats Duncans, it eats Pectinia. Something to consider. B had an affogato. I think Christina Bui had one. I feel like Corey has to try it. Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of funny. Like, actually, it was really great to have John here. Like, John Bowie is Clam Mania, if you don't know. Um, he is always such an interesting character to pin down because, like, you can give him like super advanced notice, and it doesn't matter. It's like it's gonna be a last second decision whether he shows up or not. And he was like, when I first like talked to him, he was like, "Sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. I'm at Burning Man right now." It's like because of course you are. So he more or less right after Burning Man came straight here, and on the way back out there, he's in Las Vegas. Like it's like such a jet setter type mentality. But John's a really cool guy. Appreciated him coming. Okay. Kiyoki is asking, I'm having trouble getting my Goniopora to keep their polyps extended. What should I be troubleshooting? So, Goniopora are tough, difficult, in fact. Depends on what kind you have. Some are going to be more difficult than others. But when it really comes down to it, the thing I worry the most about are random pests. And I'm talking about like stuff that's you can't even see with the naked eye. This is something that I was talking about with a few of the guests that were here this past weekend was about, it's becoming more and more and more of a necessity to like pay attention to some weird like microbial stuff. Um, Case in point, Joe Waiulo visited another place here in town, and at Long Island Aquarium had this issue with these critters. He calls it them. They're like this white crustacean, and I've had them before like 10 years ago, and they are absolutely destructive. They're like locusts, and they will happily eat a lot of small polyp and large polyp stony corals. Usually they start with stuff like Pocillopora, but they eventually go to chalices and stuff. Anyway, he had to break down his entire reef to take care of those things. And by the way, his reef is 20,000 gallons, so it's a pretty big endeavor. He visited this other place, and he saw Goniopora, and it was like this immediate progression of fully open and happy, kind of closed and actively getting eaten. And he's just like highly suspicious. So he actually had to take like a sample, preserve it in alcohol, and he took it back to Long Island and looked at it under a microscope. But long story short, there's a lot of stuff that likes to bother Goniopora. And so whenever Gonis aren't opening, My number one concern is that there's something consuming it, biting it, whatever. It could be crustaceans, it could be ciliates, it could be flatworms, it could be nudibranchs. The craziest thing is the Goniopora specific nudibranchs. I've only seen it once ever. We caught it in quarantine, but yeah, they basically take the same color as the polyps and everything. So if you're able to remove that whole thing, I would suggest dipping that in some potassium salt based thing. We use Polyp Labs Reef Primer here. Uh, one of these days, guys. So Corey, Coralhead from Germany, he works at Nios, and they've come up with a pest control dip that I believe that Corey and Patrick from Reef Wholesale, I think they collaborated on this formulation, but it's a lot of like botanical oil type stuff. Uh, I got a sample of that. I loved it, and I'm like, I can't wait to buy this here in the States. And right now, I think it's hung up in like FDA stuff and perhaps distribution issues. But guys, now I now have two favorite dips. And so keep an eye out for the Nios dip that Corey formulated, or I don't know if the other people at Nios did, but I know Corey was one of the chief people that did that. And the Reef Primer, because those two things are so different. And that's what I like about it. You have the potassium salt based stuff in Polyp Lab, and then you have the botanical oil stuff in the Nios product. So what I like about both of them is that they're very gentle, very, very gentle on the corals. If you have no clue what's wrong with the corals, these two dips are less likely to kill the coral, which is like the number one thing, right? Don't. So if the pests are killing your coral, don't you also kill your coral? That'd be nice. So I like to have like these two, like bullets in the chamber, so to speak, to deal with stuff because certain things are really resistant to certain dips, and it is good to like have multiple treatment paths, and the gentler the better. So you always have to kind of balance like how effective do you want something and how harsh is it going to be versus um, again, be gentle, don't kill the coral. So those are right now my two top choices. A slightly distant third would be Julian Sprung's product. That is, what is that, guys? What's Julian Sprung's thing? I'm blanking on it because we use it not so often these days. I can see it on my shelf. It has like that little bit of a lime smell to it. I forget. Okay. Anyway, Colin is asking, I'm new to reefing. Oh, revive. Yeah, there we go. It's always like a little bit of a delay before the chat catches up. Revive. Yes. Revive, perfectly good. Um, I think it tends to be a little harsh, but I do like the convenience of it because it's not a powder like Reef Primer is. So if I'm like in a real jiffy pinch, I just could glug glug of Revive, just keep it moving. Especially if it's a coral that I know can probably handle it. Or if I think a coral is like really far gone and I'm like, it's probably not gonna make it, but I want to see what jumps off of this thing potentially. I'll hit it with like a little bit of an extra dose of Revive just so that I can see it. Okay, Colin, I'm new to reefing. Love Cyphastria's look, but is it viable in a 20-gallon mixed reef? Sure, on sides of rock or future headache. It's a fast-growing SPS. Can I mix Cyphastria like a garden? Uh, so yes. Is it going to fight with each other? Also, yes. Is it going to be a big deal? Not really. There's so everything in the coral world really does like to fight. It's just how good are they going to be at fighting? Like if you said, "Well, I have I have a tank that I want to fill with. I'm trying to think of like a particularly hostile coral. Acan, Pachycepta, and chalices. And the chalices are like all super different from each other. It's like, is that going to be a problem? Absolutely, that's going to be a problem because when those start fighting, they're going to start killing each other really, really effectively. Cyphastria, yeah, they might fight a little bit. Are they going to kill each other? Probably not that effectively. So it's going to be fine. It is going to be fast growing though. Infinite Reef, going to reef stock. I am not. This year has been really low on the travel schedule. I went to well, ironically, I did go to reef stock. I went to reef stock Denver earlier this year. It was so long ago that I have to like double check my memory. I went to reef stock Denver. Yes. And that was the only show that I had on my schedule until fairly recently when Vivarium got on my schedule. So I'm only going to two shows all year this year. Vivarium in the Netherlands and Reef Stock Denver. So for all the other places that feel snubbed, don't. I didn't go anywhere. Your event looked awesome. Thank you. It was just the right amount of size. And by the way, if you guys are wondering why it wasn't super, super duper publicized, it's because I am far more worried about an event here getting out of control with the number of people than not having enough people. So we had, I don't know, give or take 100. And that's to me is like the perfect size. Between 1 to 200 over the course of an entire day. That is my happy place. That is perfectly manageable. Everybody's not all on top of each other, giving each other COVID. Though that happened. A couple of my friends got COVID immediately. Luckily, I don't think anybody else did. So it might have just been an airport thing. But yeah, I think if like between 2 to 300 people showed up, now I'm sweating a little bit. I'm definitely sweating a little bit because this place really isn't meant for that many people. It's not like a convention center. It's a coral farm. It's a cushy coral farm, but it's a coral farm. Um, but yeah, so it was. I was even trying to convince Raj, like, don't put it on Reef Builders, and he put it on Reef Builders. So that I think a lot of people were like, yeah, I heard about it through Reef Builders. I'm like, damn it, because once they published that, a bunch of people did sign up on Eventbrite, and I guess like why not though? Because it is like a free event. That's like the best part. The food was the best part. Like, don't even get it twisted. Like, we had the whole thing catered. I got like a number of different places catering it. It was good. It was really good. This is like the first time that I've ever really dealt with catering companies and stuff. It's like, I could get used to this because they're along the way, um, people were offering to do some of the cooking and stuff. Like, we can make it more of a potluck. I'm like, listen, there's going to be so many responsibilities here. Let the pros handle the food. So glad we did that because it made the entire thing so much less stress, more streamlined. Perfect. The food itself was pretty good. I think the only thing that wasn't a hit was like these little Reuben, like a Reuben bites. I'd call them a slider, but that's kind of like a cheeseburger, right? So imagine like a cheeseburger slider, but it's a Reuben. That wasn't fantastic, but everything else is pretty good. What else is going on? Um, There were a few things that I had wished would be ready before the event, and unfortunately, it just could not happen. And one of the things, and this is, by the way, like the most minor of details no one would know, but we were in the process of redoing the saw station in the greenhouse. At some point on social media, I will share what our existing saw station looks like and the new one, which is a much nicer, more polished thing. I was sharing the saw station with a couple of friends just today, because like literally it got done today. Um, it looked like it came out of a shipwreck. The original one. It was like a steel thing that we just slapped a tabletop on, and that's where we did the saw. It literally looked like it came from the bottom of the ocean. And the new one is like all sleek and plastic, and it integrates into the sink. So when you're cutting at that saw station, you can quickly like rinse it all out, and all that water will just make its way down into the sink. Super easy peasy. The other one was on the other side of the building. So whenever you needed to clean the saw, you have to like drain it, take it all the way over to the sink, clean it there, move it all the way back. It was dumb. We shouldn't have done it that way, but we did. Now it makes a lot more sense where it is. The one adjustment that I think that we're going to make is like the current saw that we use is a griffin. And if you're familiar with a griffin saw, it has a reservoir down at the bottom, and so it's kind of like pulling water from that reservoir to cool the saw blade. It's a bandsaw blade. The problem with that is I think that like a lot of like the coral mucus and the gunk going from like coral to coral is kind of toxic. Just just all those like the stress and junk and debris kind of sucks. So what we want to do this time around is to have like a flow through design. So we're going to drill the bottom of that saw just to let water flush out. And we're going to run a peristaltic pump to deliver um, salt water at the cut location. So we're going to basically be drawing water up from the nearest system or the nearest two systems to have like a constant stream of clean salt water, constantly rinsing the blade, constantly rinsing off the coral that's getting cut. I think that's going to drastically reduce the mortality rate and the stress that these corals are under. Keep the saw itself cleaner, and all that stuff just runs down into the sink. And when you're all ready to clean up, the faucet's right there. Just pull it over, hose everything down, and get everything like much more sanitary for the next time around. That having that set up in the greenhouse, I think is going to be like a big deal. Like way nicer. Jeffrey CE, if some random sent you a coral, how long would you quarantine that coral for if you can? Okay, so we do something pretty extreme here. We have stages of quarantine, I would call it. So the first stage isn't really quarantine. It's kind of like a holding cell. We use Rubbermaid stock tanks, like a 50-gallon Rubbermaid. So it's fairly shallow. It holds about realistically 20 something gallons. In that tank, we have a light, we have a heater, we have a protein skimmer, and we have a like a Marineland power head, but it's like a power head that's attached to a micron filter. So between the protein skimmer and the micron filter, that tank stays unbelievably crispy clean, like really clean. And by dipping and putting the corals in that, you can do a lot of observation for potentially a good amount of time. From that, it's going to go into one or two places. if it's something that is a coral that we're not necessarily trying to propagate long term and realistically farm, things like scolies, things like Sinarina, things like elegances, those would make their way to probably the greenhouse, and that's where they'll stay until they get sold. If it is something that we want to do long-term propagation of, like a special fungia that we got, or fungid of some sort, Diaceras, whatever, well, now that's going to go into quarantine. And so we have a dedicated couple of systems for quarantine. And in there, I think that we keep it up to like 2 months, something along those lines. Um, this process reduces the risk of introducing something we don't want. Realistically, stuff can still get through. You still have to be vigilant in your actual growing systems or in your show tank. But again, it makes it less likely when you're sending them through these stages, and it's not good enough just to like have it sit there. You have to actively monitor it. You have to then actively you have a dipping schedule and certain types of full tank treatments. So like now we have a combination of dipping in reef primer. We also do like a whole tank treatment for crustaceans, like, and so we are running interceptor. It is way better to run interceptor in a small container like that, 20 to 60 gallons, rather than trying to do it in 2,500 gallons. Because that, in addition to being like shockingly expensive, it's, you're treating so many things that probably had nothing wrong, and it's so invasive. So the more of that stuff you can do in smaller volumes of water up front, the better. A lot of hobbyists don't really have the facilities for that, but then again, you're just talking about like a couple of Rubbermaids perhaps. If you could do like a Rubbermaid staging area with a heater, a light, protein skimmer, power head, you can manage that, right? That would, for a relatively minor investment, that would greatly improve your quality of life long term in the hobby. I should do a video on that to advocate for that a little bit more, because I've done it. I've done that video before. I wonder if it like requires a little bit of an update. The I will say one thing though. My skimmer of choice for those, in the past we used Nios skimmers. The skimmer that I would choose now for that would probably be the Tunza, because specifically because it is self-leveling. It has so you can kind of set it, and to a large degree, it'll stay consistent. A lot of other skimmers, they're going to be like negatively impacted to the point where they're not going to work that well if that water level in there is like from evaporation and whatnot keeps changing. And that's kind of like why in a sump people have separate skimmer compartments so that particular compartment stays level. The skimmer design of the Tunzi, it stays better consistent, which I like. Now, the other thing that I like is that the output of that skimmer goes into this basically like a bag. Not a bag, like a filter sock, but it's mesh. And what we're able to do is throw a bag of activated carbon in that. So in addition to it like collecting like the bubbles and everything like that from getting into the rest of the Rubbermaid, it's also doing a little bit of chemical filtration. So right now we had just gotten some corals from a wholesaler. We threw it all into that Rubbermaid 50, and that water looks so crispy. And yeah, we'll be able to sit there, watch it for like a week, 2 weeks before it starts to go to wherever those corals need to. Of all of those corals, I think only like maybe 5 or 6 are going to make it into quarantine, and the rest of them are going to get sold off. I'm trying to remember what we even have in there. I got a couple of chalices, got a really nice Diaceras that we're going to be propagating long term, and I think we got a couple of button scolies, a few other things. Nothing crazy. Yeah, I hate pests, bristleworms especially. See, the thing is, I like bristleworms. Everybody here hates bristleworms, but that's because they don't know anything. Bristleworms are great. So going to quarantine everything. And again, it's like I wouldn't expect to exclude everything. Um, these things are very good at making their way into your aquarium. Um, I think it's part of the hobby, really. If you are trying to exclude absolutely everything, um, the level of effort and care and investment that's going to take is going to be beyond most people's life savings. Yeah, you're thinking like it's going to be a house payment. It's not. It's going to be redonkulous to do it for real. Like real deal biosecurity, it's a lot. Very challenging. Do you ever set up macro time lapses for QT observations? I don't. I don't. But I do have to say that um, whenever we do, because you don't really have to do time lapse very much. That's the thing. Because a lot of the things that are going to be problematic, you're going to be able to see within like 10 seconds. If you can like scrub back and forth 10 seconds across a clip, you'll see it. Um, Occasionally, we do see something suspicious. So it's funny. So Becca here, the media exec that does all the photography, like just about all the videography, everything. Like she's now kind of our first line of observation. You would think that like, oh, it's people looking at corals, looking at tanks. Less than you might think. I mean, I think that our brains are really good at ignoring stuff. And so when she shoots things and has to edit photos and edit video, she'll be like, "Take a look at this," and I'm like, "Boy, that looks suspicious. Where was that from?" Okay, shut that system down. We need to like isolate all that stuff and deal with that. But she's like the first person to like really set eyes on this because you can't notice all this like super tiny stuff in a facility of this size. You kind of have to rely on photography, and luckily we do a lot of it. But case in point to how well our brains ignore stuff. Just recently, I was having like some construction-y project happening in my dining room, and it's like some stone stuff that these masons are putting up. And I talked to one of them outside, and I had literally just come out of my dining room, and because I was like looking at their work, at their masonry work, and I talked to one of them outside, and I asked, "Are you gonna have enough rock to do, this area?" And he was like, "Yes, because this is what's outside here, and the rest is inside in the dining room." And I just kind of like looked at him blankly, and he's like, all the stuff that's inside, that's enough for the inside dining room. Still, I'm looking at him blankly, and he's like, "Did you not notice like the big stack of boxes?" And I'm like, "No." And I go back and look in the dining room. There's literally a pallet of rock in the middle of the dining room, the middle of the dining room that I was just in, and I didn't notice it. So the idea that like observation alone in a facility of this size, when you're talking about like micro critters on a Goniopora or an Acropora, that ain't happening. It's just not. So it is so good to be able to have like that photography and videography function happening because it is so difficult to pay attention to like absolutely everything. I think you just go mad. Victor, when is the next Tidal Gardens event? My default answer is like never, but I shouldn't say that because this past one would have been last time's never. So like the first time we did it was about 6 years ago. Then this one happened. I think that this one went so well that there's a lot of clamoring for another one. Clamoring from like the out of town guests. And at one point, they're just like, "Yeah, we're just gonna make a planning committee and we're gonna do it. like whether you like it or not, we're gonna put something together and you're gonna host it at Tidal Gardens." So I don't know if it's gonna be next year, but eventually, because it did go well. I think that people genuinely had a very very good time here. Um, People thought it was like a very good community building event, and I did like that. Okay, so this is like me ranting just a little bit. I sometimes don't get the reef or fish club thing because I'm not really a member of any of these clubs. I think that they tend to be drama fests when you have like volunteer a lot of volunteer chefs in the kitchen, um, and your only real connection was the hobby on a volunteer basis, and things go really haywire when like money is involved. I mean, you probably don't have to be told that, but when money is involved in these things get real goofy. So I don't really mess with that too much. And a lot of times these clubs, they have to make their money with membership dues. And for a lot of randoms that are in these clubs, it's like, well, what do I get for my membership? Not a ton typically. Not a ton. I mean, some groups are better than others, I'm sure, where it does make a lot of sense, but that can be a tough sell. And you're talking about like $20 a year, and there are still people that demand to have justifications for that. It's like, come on, dude, it's $20 a year. Um, but then the thing that usually makes the club money, which again is going to be the source of future drama, is they're going to put on an event. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and ignore all the things on my screen, and I'm going to call it good. um, okay, where was I? Event. The events, like the trade show esque event, is the thing that makes a club money, which again is going to be the source of all your drama later. But the problem right this second is that everybody has an event. Okay, right this second, how many events are going on right now? Like literally right now. It's probably five, right? What's the over under? If I said five, are we over or under that many events going on simultaneously right now? It's a lot, right? Oh, sound gone. Back. Okay. All right, good. Yeah, I was worried there. That looked very goofy for a second. I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, so there's like this saturation of clubs. Um, and so I think that what kind of like separated this particular event from a lot of others was that there really wasn't a financial incentive because the origin is I just wanted people to come and hang out. So I straight up fronted all of the money for like the food and stuff. The clubs, they did eventually pitch in, with like a few $100s each, and then I donated like a lot of stuff to those guys, and obviously like putting on the event itself and everything. Hopefully we're all good, but there was no admission fee to the thing. There was no like nobody had to buy anything. I mean, we did offer stuff for sale for like like people like locals and stuff if they wanted to shop. Nobody was under any obligation to shop. It was just, again, I just wanted to make it like a community event. And I thought that that was super liberating because you have like less opportunities for drama that way. I mean, sure, it's like a lot of money out of pocket for food, but all things considered, low drama was better. Philip Fest dropping in, missed another live show. Apple picking this time. Nice. All of our apples are basically gone. Like, it's hilarious. We have like these giant 20-pound gophers in our backyard now, and all of them are just like they've gorged themselves on basically a lifetime's worth of apples. So anyway, I hope that the audio didn't cut out for too long. But yeah, it's like I saw this like thing like pop up on my screen, and that I've this is why we do sound checks and everything like that to start these shows off. Because without fail, something odd and new will happen. And sure enough, even after doing this for so many years, like, oh, I haven't seen that little technical snafu there before. But we made it. We made it through. Oh, man. Okay, what other thing was going on here that is of interest? Oh, um, so the guys at ATI. Oh, only 30 seconds, no problem. You can ignore me for 30 seconds anytime you guys like. So the guys at ATI slash NIOS slash White Corals came all the way from Germany, and they brought over with them their new light to demo. It's called the ATI Stratton X, and it is basically the updated Stratton Pro of sorts. Um, there were there's like a lot of interest in that light for sure, because like there's always like a group huddled around that particular little demo tank that we had set up there. It was really really interesting because it it is there was like a lot of manufacturing efficiencies to that light compared to the Stratton Pro. If you don't know what, if you guys are like curious, the ATI Stratton lights are easily like the sexiest looking lights. They are this thin. I mean, we're talking like 10 millimeters, so that's what, uh, 3/8 of an inch, give or take. Uh, super, super thin, no fans. It just there's this machined aluminum body. Really, really cool. They also kind of have this T5 panel like look as far as like the lighting goes. Um, we were trying out the Stratton Pro on a 200 and some odd gallon tank. I made a video about that somewhat recently. The Stratton X is their new model, and this is the first time they've ever exhibited. Was at my open house. Very cool of them to bring that over. And it was kind of bonkers how good the spread was on that thing, because we like they had a little light meter on a stick, and they're showing that like at the corners of the tank there it's like 600-700 par. It was like very very impressive, and like in the middle like 900 par or something, but super bright, super intense. And the spread is even because as it's not, what would I say, like there's a lot of lights that are kind of like have like the light puck, it doesn't have that. It has like more of like a panel effect. And I've got this SPS show tank. It has a dozen Ecotech Radions on it, and I was like, okay, well, I'd like to try it out on that aquarium when you guys get like all your pricing and everything like that solidified. I'm thinking about replacing like the dozen or so lights there with maybe like 10 of the Stratton Pros, or sorry, the Stratton X, and Christian from Nios slash ATI. He's one of the owners. He was like, "No, you'll need 6." And that's when he started to show me like the light spread and intensity. It's like you could very easily cover that entire real estate with plenty of spread, with plenty of multiple angles, very evenly with 6 fixtures. And each of those fixtures would consume less electricity than what you're currently using. And I'm like, well, that would be interesting to try. You can always add more lights later, but I am very curious to try 6 to replace the 12 that I'm currently using. So that's going to be an experiment that I would like to see later on. Because, and this is also like one of the things that I'm most interested in is the fact that it doesn't use fans. This place is very quiet. One of the ways that, and I am running out of ways to make it quieter, but one of the ways that it could get more quiet is the removal of a lot of cooling fans. We have, I don't know, 100 radions in here. Well, and by the way, I'm not necessarily just picking on radion. I'm picking on all the light fixtures that require active cooling. But just like the very soft hum and drone comes from these from the cooling fans. And over time, the cooling fans get louder and louder as they, get some dirt and debris on them. So, I do appreciate a light panel that is pretty much self-cooling in the sense that the body itself is the heatsink. Now, I have no clue about how long these things last. The nice thing about the Radions is that they have lasted a decent amount of time. I mean, we probably have those things up now for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. So props to that. But again, this is why we try things out in stages. Not sponsored, just saying. Okay, Kyoki. Any chance you could put on your website stocking suggestions per tank size? Not really, no. 45-gallon mixed reef, 45-gallon LPS. I find the choices bewildering. It would be easier to follow a list. So the reason why I hesitate to do that is because everybody's taste in corals is so different that it almost is not valuable. Like everybody's really into their own things. Even like the people that work here, if you gave them each a 45-gallon or let's say a 60-gallon cube, okay, and said fill it with whatever you like, you would get dramatically different choices. And even if you isolate, it's like, no, no, okay, keep it to an LPS only tank, right? None of these tanks would look similar at all. It'd be across the board, completely different. So that's the reason why we don't do anything like that. There's so much personal preference that goes into it. And honestly, most corals are going to be a very similar level of care. We kind of like focus on like the outliers, but we kind of get blind to the ones that are just basically fine and easy. I would say that there's only like a handful of LPS that are really that difficult. There's only a handful of SPS that are really that difficult that's going to require like specialized care. Everything else is just there for the picking. The ads are so much louder than your volume. Use an ad blocker. Seriously. Seriously. Do not let them advertise to you. My son just said your voice is so calm. It's because it lacks a soul. That's all. Jeffrey, been away for some time. How's Becca? She's fine. She still works here. Everything's fine. And it's crazy. Like she wasn't a college intern like in 2020, and yeah, it's worked out really nicely. But what's the only thing that's like super surprising is I haven't gone back into that well to get another college intern. It's like one for one, 100% effective. Why haven't you done this again? That seems dumb. You should definitely get another college intern. Maybe for on the biology side. I've got a couple of things cooking as far as like sea urchin breeding. Um, yeah, that would be interesting. VCA, what is up, Antonio? Antonio came and visited too, and he brought over a an interesting flow thingy. It's like a flow. I mean, that's what VCA does, but it's more thingy than normal because it went onto our closed loops, and so we're still playing with that. The ATI Stratton was super impressive. The super widespread, absolutely no glare. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that. So a lot of light fixtures struggle with light bleed that gets into your eyes. The ATI Strattons do a very good job of staying out of your eyes, and then um, it kind of depends on how tall you are and how you have the lights mounted. But uh, if you stand like 20 feet away from these lights, they're because you're so thin, there's a possibility that you won't even notice that there's lights above your tank at all. Because if you can just imagine like an iPad floating in the air, if it's kind of anywhere near like your eye level in terms of height, you don't notice a dark gray iPad floating in the air. Like that's invisible, right? And their new light is thinner than an iPad. It's I think what did they say, like 8 millimeters? I mean that's literally thinner than an iPhone. Um, yeah, so it's almost like these tanks are just illuminated and you can't see lighting. So like for a facility like Tidal Gardens, which does place quite a lot of weight on the aesthetics of not just the aquariums but the equipment around the aquariums, it's kind of on brand. The one thing that um, the Gen 5 Radions have and the Gen 6 Radions have that I really really like, that I wish ATI Stratons had, was the moonlight programming. And it may or may not be something that can be done easily with the ATI. However, if it's not something that is easy, they should definitely just sell a standalone moonlight and just call it a day. Because the more and more that we're getting into like sexual reproduction of corals, sexual reproduction of inverts, yeah, it turns out that the moonlight thing is like really, 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 really super duper important. And it is a feature that I thought was nonsense, and now I it's like a buying decision based thing. It's like that is such a good feature that um, I look for it in every lighting fixture these days. Victor, did you and the special guests make any videos during the event? I had to leave early, so I wasn't able to stay for the guest speakers. So Victor, we recorded the talks. So, by the way, Tanner Serpa, like really big deal person on YouTube, he was the first speaker, and then Joe Waiulo from Long Island Aquarium was the second speaker. Literally, guys, there were at least 2 dozen people that could have been speakers at this event, and it would have been an amazing week long thing. We had two speakers. Okay. Um, we recorded that. Becca shot some footage, like in and around the event itself. Um, so speaking of speakers, they would have been great podcast guests. How many podcasts did I record? Zero, because I was hosting. There's no way to do it. There's just simply no way. And also, the room that we would normally do the podcast in had to be set up for a speaking engagement. So there's like 75 chairs here. We had to take down the podcast set entirely. Maybe put a podium and all that fun stuff. Had like the big screen TV for the slideshow. Could not record any podcasts. So we only really shot some behind the scenes stuff, as well as the two presentations that we'll eventually get to editing and putting up there. Um, the the YouTube creators that came, I wanted to make it painfully obvious that they were under absolutely no obligation whatsoever to film anything. Like, I did not invite them for clout. I invited them to come and hang out and have a good time. Period. Like, nobody had to bring anything. And so, for example, like Reef Bum, Keith Berkelheimer, Hammer. So he does like the Reef Bum podcast. Okay. He said, "Can I just come and hang out and leave my camera at home?" And I'm like, "Abso-freaking-lutely," right? So he did not. Tanner Serpa, big YouTuber. You're already a guest speaker. I would never ask you to do. By the way, the reason why I invited him to be a speaker is because one of the clubs is a little bit more freshwater focused, and so I wanted to have like somebody that spoke to that. So we had a freshwater speaker, sort of paludarium, and then we had the saltwater speaker with Joe. So again, I would never try to like gravy train on his audience for this thing, right? But of the people that did shoot, I think John from Clammania did some shooting. There was March from Fragbox did some shooting. Yorkshire Reefer from the UK. Um, a few others. A few others. I'm sure I'm forgetting some folks, but yeah, there's plenty. There's plenty, but I again I wanted to make it super duper duper obvious. Oh, and Reef Beef. Um, Rich Ross was here, and but again, it's a social gathering. It whatever professional things go on, it is tangential to the social element. So whatever business deals that they wanted to do, whatever products that they wanted to talk about and display, it is on them. Go ahead and suitcase this show however you like. It's funny that your place is so quiet that you can complain about the sound of a cooling fan. Yeah, yeah, but it helps. I mean, there was a time that I was laying down on the sofa upstairs, and downstairs at the other corner of the building, there was a pump that was ready to die, and it was making a very high pitched squealing sound. And I noticed it right away and was able to take care of it. That is a difficult thing to diagnose in most aquaculture facilities of this size. Just saying. There are some practical reasons to have a place be this quiet, which is crazy quiet, by the way. If it wasn't as obvious enough, and oh, by the way, that's also like my favorite thing for folks that have never been here before and are kind of experiencing it for the first time. I always say it's crazy quiet in here, and they will also often see other people come in and they'll be like, yeah, it is every bit as quiet as other people have said. Until you experience it in person, it is really hard to wrap your brain around. Because places simply aren't this quiet. Like, we're not surrounded by quiet to this degree. So when people experience it, like, oh, geez, that's crazy. That's the point. Be the fountain. Can I be an intern? Yes. It pays like $10 an hour if you're good with that. Coral head, 9 millimeters. Yes, it is that thin. That is the ATI Stratton X thickness. Practically invisible from a distance. Um, Obviously, it is a premium light. It's gonna cost me a good penny to upgrade or swap out, replace however many I'm looking to do. But yeah, I think it is. It's a progression. We try a lot of different technologies, and that is the next one that I would like to look into. YouTube app randomly decided need to update right now. Yeah, that's why you run ad blockers. They don't deserve your money. Victor, it would have been cool to see a live podcast with all the guest speakers and an audience in the background. That is interesting. Yeah. Don't know how I would set it up here, but that would be interesting to have like a live podcast of sorts. I wonder if it would be engaging enough though. That's the question. However, what I think what is cool is to have like panel discussions. So to basically be very audience driven. I think that would be like a cool design. Yeah, B. I love telling people to close their eyes and tell me where the water is. They're shocked that they can't hear any water. That is true. So the system that when you first walk in, it's the total volume is over 3,000 gallons, but the first five tanks are 500 gallons each, so that's 2,500 gallons. Standing within 6 inches of the first tank, you can't hear anything. You would not know that you are surrounded by 2,500 gallons of running reef aquarium systems being 6 inches away from the tank. It's it is like the most uncanny thing. It's like how best to describe it? It's almost like you're watching a video with the sound off of a tank, but it's there. It's real. The water's running. It's There's devices that are on, and it makes no sound. The sound that you hear isn't that aquarium. It's from like maybe the air conditioner or like the protein skimmer 60 feet away, but it's not that particular tank. It's crazy. Tidal talks with Than. Okay, the other thing that I have to fix is the fact that this room, it has an air conditioner. However, it still gets a little bit toasty if there's 75 people in here. So ideally, I would do something to be able to bring the temperature down when there's that much going on in here. But I don't think it was like horrific. I mean, it was tolerable. It was warm but tolerable. And when people get back out into the main space, it's fine. It's fine. Ah, so the mother has made it into the building and no longer locked out, I see. Oh, that's nice. Nice. Got some Korean snacks. I'm not gonna eat it on stream. That's like the number one most like annoying thing that I could do is start eating stuff. Uh, Robert Schreier, CO2, eh, less of an issue because like we opened up windows like almost immediately. But like this time of year, if it's sunny, it's still kind of warm. So it was like kind of warm outside, air conditioners running. It was manageable. As far as like the aquariums go, there's no risk of CO2 anything. I mean, there's so much air exchange. But this particular room, um, it's just so super well insulated, like 10 out of 10 insulation. And you just have like that many people like building up heat. That's the bigger issue. What kind of snacks bulgogi? I wish it was no. I mean, like bulgogi sounds great all the time, but I can't read Korean. But it's probably like this kind of like a rice cake of some sort, maybe. Again, I would open it and eat it right now, but you guys, your ears would be hitting the eject button immediately. So, what else is going on? After this after this live stream, pretty much for the next month, on and off, I'm gonna have to be working on a presentation. Like norm. Okay, so it's so funny how Joe Waiulo was actively seeking out a speaking engagement, and people have to move heaven and earth for me to be a speaker ever. So um, I basically have like an open invite to speak at any trade show in the US, and it's like the answer is no. But if you're gonna like send me to the Netherlands for like a week and we do cool stuff in both the Netherlands and Germany, and I'm gonna hang out with Abiz Alex, yeah, that'll be good. I'll do I'll do a 45-minute talk for all that, right? So I'm gonna have to actually work on a talk. It'll be good. It'll be fine. But it is funny because I think I was originally scheduled to be like last speaker first day, and first email I fire off. It's like, can we go ahead and make me first speaker first day so that I can get my speaking obligations out of the way instantly? And so they're like, yes, absolutely. And so, yep, first speaker slot. That's my jam right there. I've told this story before, but when I was a speaker at Aquashella years ago, they they booked me first speaker first day. And at the time I was like, dang, no one's even gonna see me speak. I mean, one would take that as a slight, but no, it was like the biggest blessing. Cause um I was like thinking, well, no one's gonna even see my talk because it's so early in the morning. It's like 10 a.m. in the morning. Then I looked, it's like general admission isn't even starting yet. It's VIP and early bird access only. And um, yeah, so no one's going to see my talk. I'm going to be speaking to a completely empty room. It's going to be amazing because I have no problem not having any attention. That's great. But no, it turns out that it was practically standing room only, which is crazy that early. And somebody said that even like within like the VIPs, the VIP line was still backed up, not able to get not able to get into the facility uh, before my talk was over. Okay, somebody keeps people are still saying that my volume is low. Not sure what I can do about that. I'll try. Okay, this is a little doofy. This is a little doofy. Hold on. Hold on. Let me try one thing. Okay. Okay. Am I a little bit louder now? Hopefully. Hopefully, yes. Oh no, what the heck is this? Okay, how about now? Is this better audio wise? I apologize. I thought we were good. I thought we were good. I don't think we were good. I don't think we were good at all. Fish Ventura, thank you. Somebody else had said something earlier about audio. I didn't. I read it, but I didn't like act on it. This should be better. This should be better. You don't think it changed? Okay. Trust. Some things were different. Better? Possibly better? Okay. Anyway, I tried. I tried. Okay. I officially tried. Okay. My tank is hitting 8.5 pH. It's got LPS in it, and I was a little worried that it's going to start dying. What's the maximum pH? Honestly, if it's anything like 8.3 or whatever, just call it good. Like, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm turning it down a little bit, in fact, because I'm worried about clipping. um, so 8.5 sounds really high to the point where I'm wondering if it's like not your pH thing that's just kind of goofy. Because, like pH being like, is it like logarithmic or exponential? I forget which it is, what describes it. But, the difference between like 7 and 8 pH is like 10x. So going from like 8.3 to 8.5, not a little different. It's a whole lot different. So it sounds crazy high. I would double, triple check your results with different checkers. Okay, people are saying it's way better, hotter mic now. Okay, I did turn it down a bit, so hopefully it's not peaking. But okay, yeah, I cranked it a little bit. Sorry about being so quiet and probably only out of one channel earlier. Okay, it's not clipping. Keep it up. I had the volume up as loud as I could on my car. I could barely hear you. Oh no. And then the ad came on and we all grabbed our ears. Logarithmic. Yeah, see, I say logarithmic a lot, and sometimes what I'm actually trying to describe is not logarithmic, it's exponential. So good. All right, logarithmic. Franklin, I checked the probe like 6 times and tested with a secondary probe as logarithmic, so I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah, that is high for sure. But I mean, there was some research about how like high pH, a lot of like stony skeletal building and stuff like that happens faster and better at that pH. So altogether, pretty good maybe. Eco Marines sounds good. All right, nice. Yeah, that is one thing that I should have double triple checked was that because for some odd reason, the audio levels on this were just reset to something weird. And I assumed that it was like the same as like the last broadcast. It was not. It was not. Oh, yeah, I paid to avoid the YouTube ad ear blasts. Guys, run an ad blocker. As a YouTube creator that actually gets revenue from ads, run an ad blocker. Stop that. When the pH starts to get high, the skeleton no longer can absorb calcium. Craig Wingman says 8.7 is when that shift starts to happen. I'm just giving you crap because I know that you're talking like voice to text. She means Craig Bingman, who does chemistry stuff. The blue Pavona was beautiful. Yes, Pavona's pretty cool. A little aggressive, a little aggressive. However, if you're looking to try a very easy SPS, Pavona. It's one of those corals also that's like fairly easy to propagate, and that's why, um, luckily, for a lot of beginners especially, it's an easy coral to get into, like $15 here for an orange Pavona. Um, I mean, it's about as cheap as it gets because it's aquacultured. It's always funny when you go to a wholesaler, and I know that most people don't have access of just going to a wholesaler, but I can tell you that sometimes like you see that they've recently imported a Pavona, which they may or may not have any say in. Like they just got sent this Pavona, and they have to like try to like sell it, and it's $250 for like this Pavona, and it's just they know it's never gonna happen, right? They know, but they can't help it. This is what especially happened in Fiji when Fiji reopened, and there was like I forget exactly what how long it was, but Fiji was closed for like a decade or something like that. And initially, when Fiji reopened as a geography to get corals, there was a lot of excitement. It's like, yeah, there's all these acros and like the zoanthids, and like the signature thing was like the yellow Fiji leather. And here we had been propagating stuff so long that we literally didn't miss anything from Fiji. We the we had some zoas from there maybe. The acros were just okay, and we always were propagating yellow Fiji leathers the entire decade that Fiji was closed. So that wasn't exactly super enticing for us. So when Fiji reopened, we just didn't buy anything. We didn't need to. But my going back to my story, one of the corals that Fiji ships a lot of is brown Passalipora. And it is a coral that basically has no market in the ornamental industry these days. Not a lot of people are looking for brown Passalipora. And there was like this one wholesaler just had fields of it. And the prices. So like this coral here is a stylophora. A Passalipora looks like that, but imagine that, but brown. And the pricing, they were like hundreds of dollars. And I felt so bad. It was like, oh, why even ship that? This isn't the 1980s anymore. You can't get away with shipping. And it's not like, oh, well, it's just brown now. It'll color up. It's like, no, no, it stays that color, guys. That is the color. That's the correct color. Yikes. Yikes. But yeah, it's that is one of the beauties of like long-term like real deal long-term aquaculture is that uh, it does for the stuff that does grow really well, which is a lot of the faster growing SPS. There really isn't a great reason to keep harvesting that out of the water. Like there just isn't. I mean, just leave that alone. It's not going to have a good selling market here, or it does have a great selling market. Like for example, like these really high end Monties. I have never seen this come in. They think they might be a type of Montipora palawanensis. Um, which is so Palawan would be the Philippines, which is like a no go for shipping coral. But these corals do have like a wider natural range. and like a lot of those types of things that don't get imported often because it might be a rarity, uh, those are widely available. And I think that, bringing in Montipora as an import, you get some truly whack pricing. It'll be like a regular orange plating Monty, and like it's eye-wateringly bad wholesale prices for that stuff, or very, very inexpensive on like for an aquaculture frag. Like if you saw, like, for example, this like grafted, Sunfire Monty, like 3-color thing from the wild, it's going to be costing something crazy if you've never seen it before. But luckily, coral farming exists. Okay, what number are we on? 163. Okay, so we have less than 100 to go. Ah, eco-marines. Also, they're infested with bugs shipped in mariculture Monty. 1,000,000% true. We haven't purchased a Montipora in years. All of the Montes that we have here, we have had forever. We are mostly scared of Montipora eating nudibranchs. It is such a bothersome pest because they will kill Montes that whenever we see something suspicious, we know that it is not something that we can treat here. Like we just start culling, and we have to aggressively cut back to basically like a DNA sample sized piece, and we will slowly regrow it from scratch rather than trying to like do rounds and rounds and rounds of dipping because we for a long time I didn't want to kill anything I didn't need to in terms of coral. Um, but we were getting to the point where we were dipping these things so aggressively trying to kill the Monty eating nudibranchs that we were just killing Monties. So if we're just killing Monties, let's just be a lot more diligent about just a culling program, and that has worked out. Unfortunately for the Monties, but we tried it the other way. It just did not work out. So the idea that, oh, we're just going to bring in Monties into the farm, it puts every other Monty at risk. And yeah, like Laura from Eco Marines just said, they are known for coming in with pests. Like the wild stuff, it's simply not worth the risk. Not to me. Eco Marines, I think it's at the point that if they're even on the permit, that they're not worth even applying for anymore. See if I'm reading that correctly. My brain is not working. Because like what I'm thinking is, the thing about these nudibranchs is that they can move, right? So you're dipping all your Monties. Maybe you did kill all of them that were on the Monty, but they might not be on the Monty. They can just hang out in the tank, in your plumbing, all kinds of things, right? Like certain things, like, oh, they're a nuisance, but at least you can count on them being on the coral all the time. So when you treat the coral, you are treating the problem. Montipora, nudibranchs of any kind are not beholden to stay on a specific coral. They just go places. So you can dip every single Monty in your whole system. You still have the pest problem because it's in your system. So yeah, if a system has Monty eating nudibranchs, it's like no more Monties in that system. For us, like, thank goodness we actually have some scale. Like for a year, like we'll have to like fully break down a system, and we can now, um, just to get rid of that pest. And if you by chance think that this is an isolated thing to, oh, that place has it, I can pretty much guarantee you that any place at scale deals with this. And especially if they're bringing in stuff from the wild. Like, Tidal Gardens does not import at all. And still, like, this is a worry. And the babies are pelagic, which is a problem, but I haven't had them now for 1.5 years. Yeah, so the pelagic part is an interesting problem because when you have, let's say, take for example the system that I have downstairs, 500-gallon aquariums. You might have a problem in one tank, and it'll show up very quickly in another tank. How did that happen? It's because a lot of this larva can swim, and so they can get from like the plumbing to another place. Um, what is like crazy though is how difficult it is to have that happen, because in these like multi-segmented systems, like sometimes algae doesn't even do that. You could have an algae outbreak of a specific kind happen in one aquarium, and it'll just stay there and not infect any other system or any other tank in that system. But you will transfer nudibranchs because they're active swimming. That's what's crazy. The other thing is, I think we went a stretch of like a few years without seeing any nudibranch activity, and the entire time we have not added any new Montes. Yet it pops up again, and I think it has to do with heat, because there could be just some random egg that's laying dormant, and one day it just gets enough heat in one summer, or enough consistent days of heat in one summer, and suddenly all this weird stuff hatches out of seemingly nowhere. So it's always good to be extremely vigilant. Also, we're looking at ways to combat the heat. Um, we had like a revelation recently that, our cooling issue isn't a mistake in approach. It's just under capacity. So if we're able to increase the capacity of our existing cooling system, theoretically we can pull down the temperature down to 76 degrees no matter what the temperature is outside. And so that it's not going to be an immediate project here, but I think that I have like the design framework to put something like that together, and that could be really, really good. Often, okay, EcoMarine says, often you get a given permit without choosing species, and Monty will just be on there. They want to use up their quota, so yeah, but it makes sense, but it makes no sense to import anymore. I gotcha. B, early on, I was struggling with Monties and couldn't figure it out. It was like my eyes were blind to them. All of a sudden, I saw the nudies, and they were everywhere. Wasn't able to save a single one. Been there. It's not a fun. It's one of the worst pests. Montipora eating nudibranchs and acro eating flatworms are the two that I really, really hate. Fish Ventura, Bergia rule. I put some in my frag tank, and they cleaned house and took the survivors to my nemesis tank. They cleaned house and then Nem tank, and then my 300-gallon fish only with live rock. They traveled 8 feet and cleaned the overflow. Nice. We can't do that here because our fish like to eat them. Yeah, I wish we could. Like we grow nudibranchs here, like the Bergia nudibranchs to eat Aptasia every now and again. Unfortunately, to use them as a tool in our systems is more challenging, especially if you have green chromis. Apparently, blue-green chromis love to snipe them. Hmm. Uh, Becker Paul XIX about the corals. I've seen Leptoceras on this live for $30. In Poland, it's almost impossible to get. Originally, I read that in Portland, it's almost impossible to get this coral. I've only seen the green variant for the equivalent of about $100. That's nuts. Eventually, hopefully, aquaculture like digs in, and you guys will be able to get some for less. Oh man. Yeah, people were asking, what is the like the next big thing here? And I always it's like a such a disappointing answer, but the next really big thing is going to be basically invisible. It's going to be pipes underground doing geothermal cooling for my aquariums. So it's like an engineer's dream to talk about, but as far as like anything glitzy, nothing of the sort. It's going to be super nerdy and boring and literally buried underground for nobody to see. Coralhead. I hope to find some Monty nudies on wild ones to see if I'm going to guess the dip affects the eggs as I suspect it did back then. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. So for the folks that missed my earlier talk about the dip, Nios makes a dip that I quite like a lot. Uh, Not a paid sponsor because you can't buy the dip yet anyway. Apparently, it's hung up in FDA approvals or something for that for the U.S. But I got a sample of it from Corey, and I like it quite a lot. Very herbal, botanical, smells like lavender, and it was gentle on the corals. And if it does affect eggs, that would be a very, very big deal. Breeding urchins. Let me tell you my urchin story, and I'll also couple that with wholesaler experiences. It's always funny when people that want to start into this as a business are like, all I need to get is a wholesale account and everything's going to be good. Everything's not going to be good. That's like the least of your problems. So I had ordered, I think I placed an order for like 50 sea urchins, tuxedo urchins. And when the shipment started, it immediately went down to 26. Ordered 50, they shipped 26. That's a red flag. You would think it's, oh, sorry, the other one sold. We could only send you 20 something, like half the number that you ordered. That's a red flag. What that usually means, this is code for half of them died before we could send it to you, which means another half at least are going to die once they get to you. And sure enough, of those 26, as of right this second, I think there might be two that lived. So, those are the most expensive things in that aquarium. It's these two sea urchins out of the 26 that were ordered. And the shipping alone for those guys makes them $100 a piece. I won't share with you how much I paid wholesale because it doesn't matter. The shipping for this two that survived was $100 a piece. You all do the math on the rest of it. So, to B's point, me breeding sea urchins is going to be a point of focus in the future. Um, you would think that that would be something that I would get right on, but it's funny when I was talking to Jamie Craggs in the UK. He's like, "Oh, it's super easy. It's super easy. And you can definitely do it." I'm like, is it researcher easy or is it like lazy potato aquaculture guy easy? Because like I ain't about all that research stuff. Um, it's a little bit of work, guys. It's a little bit of work. I've had these like creasel tanks now for a year. I got them at last year's vivarium, and I'm already talking about being a speaker at this year's vivarium. So those have sat dry for 12 months. Um, Apparently, you have to do like 90 to 100% water changes daily for like weeks. That's a lot of effort. That's a lot of effort. I don't know if it's something that I could beat with technology or just throw labor at it because we don't really have a lot of labor to throw around like that. But maybe that is a thing for a biology intern. We'll give it a try ourselves and then kind of like refine the technique and and make it educational for the student. But it just needs like that level of attention because you're feeding like live phytoplankton daily to these things. By the way, this is assuming that like you actually got these things to breed and you actually have larvae to feed in a creasel tank. But it's the process of doing these water changes and sieving out all these larvae, reintroducing them into like a clean creasel tank, feeding them again, 100% water change again, sieving out the larvae, putting them back. It seems labor intensive, you guys. It seems really labor intensive. But that is better than paying $100 per urchin, which I was. MT, hello, sir, from Germany. Can scalemia be overfed? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I wouldn't overdo it. They don't need to be fed that much. B, two survived? Yeah. They all died, pretty much. Yeah. And by the way, that's a red flag that's not just a thing with getting wholesale urchins. That's a thing with snails. Like especially with Trocus. You order Trocus, oh, it's a clown fiesta. Like it's like I want 200. They're like, how about 90? We can ship you 90. Yeah, because 110 didn't sell. 110 definitely like it died while you were writing that email. Once they all come in, all of those 90 that you bought, all of them are going to be dead. Like that level of utter nonsense. So if you're able to breed those snails, money, because it is so difficult to get them in that way, like get them in and healthy. A lot of people just have a lot of success breeding them. They just like, oh, 100 more popped up in my sump, sort of thing. What a great luxury to have. And again, that is also why I'm like so big on moonlights. Moonlights matter. Coral head. This Scully was the most beautiful coral I've ever held in my hands. Had a 10,000 offer, and that's bad if that's euros. And it didn't sell. Of course, it died when I was on vacation. Take the money. Oh, by the way, this is one of the beauties of YouTube. Whenever we have like a specimen like that, it's like, Becca, set up the photo shoot, get all the angles, get all like the motorized camera slides, get it all recorded because one day it'll be either be sold or it will die, and we can recoup the value with that with the imagery alone. We can recoup the value, and like we've got some amazing acanthophilia, and most of it we've sold, but one of them in particular, the nicest one that we've ever had, I think we paid wholesale $1,700 or something insane for it, but we still have the footage. That still has value. So there's that. YouTube doesn't always pay. It pays for that. uh, Robert Schreier, banded trochus are that hard as well? Yes. Trochuses are #1 dyers. So there's like this local fish store, and they, bring in, or actually no, they don't. They're not importing. They're actually wholesaling from the same place that I would wholesale from. And I'm like, listen, if you are willing to bring them in wholesale, get them through, survive in quarantine. You're not really quarantining, you're just letting them like poop out whatever the heck was in them, but survive like the first week. I'll pay full retail for all the trochus that you can bring in. And, maybe we'll do a coral trade or something, right? Coral farm. Um, they took us up on that. Guess how many trochus I've got from them so far? If you guessed 0, that's correct. Out of the hundreds of trochus that they got from the wholesaler, they didn't get a single one to survive to do a deal with me. And it's not because they're clowns. It is that difficult to get these sorts of things in from certain wholesalers. And by certain wholesalers, I mean most wholesalers. It's very difficult. So we would never, like to this day, would never buy trochus from a wholesaler. Coral head, $100 per urchin. That's kind of like what that works out to. Assuming that the two that I have, well, I think the total order was like over $700 with shipping. So, yeah, that's what, 350 to almost $400 per urchin. That's a great deal, you guys. That's a great deal. Maybe I should like focus a little bit more on breeding urchins here. Coral head. Sounds like I should move to the US. Don't know about that part. And do invert wholesale. Inverts, dude, I'm telling you, the person that can at scale breed tuxedo urchins and trochus snails and ship them healthy and happy, you're going to make some money. Like, forget seahorses. Nobody cares about seahorses, you guys. Get the herbivores. By the way, okay, I'm feeding you guys the business model because I actually want, sea urchins. What other cleanup crew is the smaller and younger the thing, the more valuable it is? Think about that for just a sec. Like, the tiniest sea urchins are the most valuable. They are able to get into all the nooks and crannies where larger sea urchins are not able to. They're going to do less bulldozing. And on top of that, they're going to be gentler in and around corals. And the icing on the cake, they will live longer because they are younger. So your product cycle to get them to like larvae and then to settle out, you can sell impossibly small itty bitty tuxedo urchins, and they are the most valuable product. They're the most valuable because there's no incentive to we have to like grow them up to be bigger, otherwise people will feel ripped off. No, dummies will feel ripped off, but the people that know you want the smallest urchins you can get your hands on, which would be the ones that are like freshly settled. Somebody get on that. Hopefully me and a college intern, right? But it's a new thing. Eco Marines. To be fair, there are good snail hunter exporters and there are bad ones. We get the bad ones because we are so motivated by getting cheap garbage all the time that you end up, sabotaging the whole thing and paying $700 for like 2 urchins. Haha, hunters, where did that come from? K-pop demon hunters. Got you again. Um, yeah, I assume smaller urchins are less likely to carry around corals. Correct. And getting the right urchins, like certain urchins just don't really do a lot of heavy lifting. Then there's we have these like big white urchins that we kind of got by accident. Uh, they were hilarious. Like it was like such a goof because we ordered tuxedo urchins, they sent these instead. But they were hilariously bad about bulldozing. Like it wasn't good enough that they would just like grab a plug or two and then carry that around and then drop it on something and kill it. No, not. They would grab entire colonies of 100 head torches, 100 head hammers. Like a colony that's like triple its size, more quadruple its size, no problem just putting that on its back and hauling it all over the place, stinging everything. Then they got even more creative. So we have these racks. They hold 25 corals maximum, okay? It's an acrylic rack with legs. They started like grabbing the entire rack by like a single leg, lifting the entire thing up full of corals, and then start climbing like up the glass with it. So we would just be like, I just walk by, one of these tanks, look over and see what looks like an entire frag rack full of corals floating in the air because the stupid sea urchin decided to grab one and just like heavy lift it straight up the glass. Tuxedo urchins don't do that, so grow those instead. What I found is to feed the inverts heavy when they come in, and dashi kombu kelp works wonders for that. That would be great if they weren't already dropping all their spines and dying in front of your eyes. The food part, that's like a day 2 problem. We got day 1 problems. Welcome to the US wholesale market. Len, the OG of YouTube saltwater channels, always the highest standards right here. Thank you very much. I try. We are old as dirt these days here. B, I've lost so many corals as discarded urchin hats. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Eco Marines, exactly, Corey. Some places I swear don't ever feed them, especially peppermint shrimp. They literally eat each other if you don't feed them, and heavily. Guys, over there in like the UK and the EU, I think the standards for import wholesale are drastically different. Just gonna say, even in Canada, because I'm talking to like Patrick at Reef Wholesale, I know that you guys do stuff and would never send out some of the things that we receive. Like it would be unacceptable. Whereas here, it's like this weird number scheme to some degree, and you would have open wound. What is it? What is that ridiculous open wound automatic death thing that comes with Anthias and Chromis? Uranema. Like open wound uranema will get shipped here, which would be, that would never happen in the UK. That wouldn't happen in Canada. Presumably wouldn't happen in the EU, right? But daily occurrence here, to the point that that somebody like Elliot from Marine Collectors, so he charges a king's ransom for quarantine services. Okay, he will not, because I have personally asked for him to quarantine blue-green chromis, he won't do it. Do you know how much he charges for blue-green chromis? And by the way, this price tag is still a no from him. It's like $150 per fish. $150 for blue-green chromis. He won't do it. He says they come in such poor shape that it is simply not worth it. At $150 per fish to get through his quarantine procedure. Yet you can find them for less than $10 or something like that at PetMart or Petco or whatever the heck. Yeah, there's going to be like a divergence in standard of care. Kyoki, what do you clean your tank exterior glass with? Just RO water. That's it. He has a demon portal opening machine to clean the glass with. Or you could use like the vacuum squeegee, but it's still RO water. So that's what I like to use. The guys don't like to use that. I'm not sure exactly what they use, but they don't use that very often. Breeding pink lady sea urchins from Sri Lanka, like money printing if you breed them. Uranima, yes. My son wanted chromis. I was so anxious about Uranima, I told him no. Also, and this is another reason why marine collectors doesn't like chromis. There are certain fish that work in groups until they don't work in groups, and chromis are one of those. And when we first got them, it was like this beautiful schooling ball. Now it is getting to the point where they're starting to kill each other a little bit, which I guess invariably they do. Also, it turns out that fox faces invariably will start murdering each other too. It took a while. It took a while for us, but we did experience that as well. I was talking about this with Joe Waiulo and with Rich Ross because they have public aquarium background. One day, it could be like 5 years, 10 years from now. One day, like one, two, three, let's say, fox faces are in the same tank. They've lived peacefully for up to a decade. One day, they decide, that's enough of that. I'm going to effing kill you now. And there's nothing you can do to placate that feeling. They're going to start trying to murder each other. And you have about 48 hours tops to fix that. And by fix that, I mean like find different homes, because it is the craziest thing. It's like a light switch. One day they choose violence. That sort of thing happens with chromis, it seems. Like, yeah, just they get to a certain level and then it's on. So, might have made a mistake putting in green chromis, but it was a fun ride while it lasted. And I bet a lot of it has to do with like sexual maturity. But like the one we have a clear like male, he's getting to the point where he's chasing around a sailfin tank 8 times his size. You know, chromis issues. And oh, by the way, the reason why I can't use nudibranchs to help with aptasia in that tank, green chromis. Seemed like a good idea at the time. About weird incidents. One day my cleaner shrimp shed, and then next day I look on my Tubipora musica, and it's almost done eating the shrimp molt. Interesting. Well, at least it's not eating the shrimp. Tubipora. That is not one that I would have expected. William Pace. Couldn't you just buy them from Petco and quarantine them yourself? You could. We struggle with quarantine. I think that people underestimate how difficult of a process that is. But yes, you can. In fact, I would recommend quarantining everything that you buy retail. Are they C viridis or C not viridis? Let me see. Thanks, Google, for letting me copy and paste. I say that facetiously. Okay, I'm Googling. Bro, those look identical to me. What the hell? I never even heard of C etra whatever. I'm going to do a search for C viridis. And what shows up? It's a rattlesnake. Okay. So as far as the fish go, those two things look identical to me. What am I missing? Not the rattlesnake, but you know. It's like that, like the Office meme. It's like these are the same. If no clue, you got me. No clue. I didn't know the chromas change colors until I saw your mail. It's such a pretty pattern. Yeah, I think that pattern is called hate. Holden Freeman, as someone local to TG, do you ever plan to have days where you're open to the public, even if it's just once a month? We had an open house that's once every 6 years, and it was last Friday, as B just said. Don't know if we're doing it again, possibly in the future. We'll see. You should be able to tell by the male spawning coloration difference. Pectoral, the black pectoral spot on the A is the most obvious difference in the females. Oh. I know that the male got super duper splotchy. So maybe it is the not viridius ones. You're going to do it again next year, even if we have to hold it without your permission. It was too much fun. That's kind of what I heard. Like a whole bunch of people were like, "Oh, don't you worry, it's happening." Uh, so we'll see. Okay, real quick before I forget, which I was about to do, let me say my thank yous to the people that support the Tidal Gardens YouTube channel financially. So, of the official corporate sponsor, we're down to one official corporate sponsor, you guys. It is Polyp Lab. So, thank you very much, Polyp Lab. A lot of people, a lot of other companies getting run. The official paid sponsor is Polyp Lab. Real quick, the YouTube members, paid members, Renee Newman or Neumann, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, Newman, Josh Hampton, Brumorg, Robert Hulin, Reef Roy, Keith Holland, Mike Washington, Jonathan Johns Vince, Pendley, Philip Fess, Mark Baumgartner, Cvin13, that is Chris Vining, Terry Kuhn, and Ohio Adventures. And on Patreon, Elaine Martinassi, Alan Jackson, Ann Lewis, Chuck Admire, Greg, Joey, Jordan Marty, Lisa Clow, Lacry Fine Art, Lynn Holt, Miss Mandy, Puddle Aquatics, Reef Theory, Sue Hemmons, Thomas Tarrant, Thomas Wilson, and Tim Garner. Thank you all very much. Thank you, thank you. How has no one snapped up that Spitfire Leptastria? It's a beaut. We got good corals here occasionally. People should buy them all. People should buy them all. The male pattern almost reminds me of a Bourbonius anthias. Kinda, yeah, it's like super splotchy. But once it gets like that splotchy, it's literally chasing tangs around. All right, I need to check on something real quick. I just got like violently hungry, so it is very good that we're on number 241 here. It's like, it just hit me like, two things. I am late for the University of Michigan Collegiate American Hand Egg game, and I need to eat more. I had something to eat before this show, but turns out 2 hours of chatting and talking with folks makes you hungry. Makes you very hungry. But regardless, hope you guys had a lot of fun during this. For the folks that did place orders, Ben will be reaching out to you for order scheduling. Most of it's probably going to go out like Monday, Tuesday, that time frame. If you need special shipping accommodations, got to email us, let us know, and we will try to get you on the calendar for another date. Be the fountain. Am I not on Patreon anymore? Did I just miss my name? Good question. Did you stop supporting me? That's the only reason we're friends. Let's see. You know what I screwed up? Here's where I might have screwed up. I screwed up. Let me fix that. Hello? Okay. So Patreon sometimes is not great with their filters. So what I think I did was I didn't click the right things on this filter. All right, let me try this again. No, that's not right. Paid members, active, these two tiers, apply filters. Okay, yeah, I totally screwed that up, you guys. Let me do this again. Sorry. Elaine Martinazzi, Alan Jackson, Ann Lewis, Brandy Camp, Be the Fountain, Chuck Admire, Greg, Harkins Aquatics, Joey, Jordan Marty, Lisa Clow, Fine Art, Lynn Holt, Miss Mandy, Puddle Aquatics, Reef Theory, Scott Williams, Sue Hemmons, Thomas Tarrant, Thomas Wilson, Tim Garnett, Tim Garner, and Vincent Fasanello. Okay. It had excluded quite a few names. My bad. Thank you for catching that, Brandy. Okay. Yes, my friendship is purely conditional on Monday. That's how that works. JK for all the people that don't get it. I'm joking a little bit. Not 100% joking, but I'm joking a little bit. Haha, no worries. I was in Patreon trying to figure out to find if my card info, no clue where that lives. Who knows? But in earnest, I appreciate the support from all the YouTube members, from all the Patreon members, and the corporate sponsor. It was actually funny. There were people, there were actually like companies that wanted to sponsor the event, and I was like, at one point we were like, it's actually way easier if I just pay myself, and so we did that. Anyways, you guys, we are done here. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and you have a good rest of the weekend. I think that there's only one more live scheduled for the rest of this year, and yeah, it'll be good. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm about to eat and watch some football. Take care. Bye bye.